You are welcome and thank you so much for having me. My name is Imani Yohani Paulo, or in Amharic could be Eminent Johannes Paulos. I'm a Swahili advocate for Africa, but I'm also, of course, a Pan-Africanist. Thank you.
Thank you, Imani. Just as you mentioned, you are a strong advocate of Pan-Africanism. Please, how do you describe the ideology of Pan-Africanism?
Well, I think that, may I say first that Pan-Africanism or Pan-Africa, which is driven from Greek word pan and then Africa, which literally means that all Africans. And this idea is it was a movement in the beginning that was established outside of Africa in order to liberate Africa from Africans, actually from colonization and slavery, but also to create a sense of belonging to those who are in diaspora. This movement have not been successful, I can possibly say, but it has become something that it dies and get up again and then get up again. But for further discussion, I think we're going to be able to go in deep about Pan-Africa and what it's supposed to be doing, what should have been done, and why it's now working in general.
Just as we know that a lot of leaders and initiators of Pan-Africanism movement have paid blood and just lots of life sacrifices just to extend or to advocate Pan-Africanism. Do you think those guys have been given due attention, recognition by today's Africans?
Well, first of all, let me bring this back because the reason why Pan-Africa have not actually worked. One is that we don't even know what is Pan-Africa. When you ask, if you will go around and ask people, what is Pan-Africa? What does Pan-Africa supposed to do? Who is a Pan-Africanist? Because you cannot say that leaders have done a lot and they are not recognized while we don't even know what is Pan-Africa. So let me start by defining Pan-Africa in application, what Pan-Africa is supposed to be done, and then see why we do not appreciate or recognize Pan-African people or people who fought for Pan-Africanism. Number one, by the way, this is in my book. I'm writing a book called Radical Pan-Africanist and Compromising Pan-Africa. Pan-Africa have principles, and those three principles have not been followed, and is not even being followed today. It's not even being defined as it's supposed to be. The three principles, fundamentals, the foundation of Pan-Africa, fundamental number one, or principle number one, is United States of Africa. No United States of Africa, Pan-Africa does not work. This is the beginning of Pan-Africanism. It's not the end goal. It's not something that we do after we have liberate Africa economically, politically, culturally, and all of those things we do, science, technology things. First, we need to have United States of Africa first. That's number one. Number two is Africa for Africans at home and abroad. Since Pan-Africa was established by people who were not born or who are not living on African motherland, we must bring them home. We must give them the ownership of Africa as we do. So the ownership of you who born in Ethiopia and possibly grew up in Ethiopia, and the ownership of Kesri who was born in Haiti and grew up in Haiti is supposed to be equally. So Africa for Africans at home and abroad. Investment, anything, any decision we make, African in diaspora have to be involved. That's number two. Number three, race first. Your race comes first before anything. Your religion does not come first before your race. You are black, you were born black, and God made you black on purpose So you must respect that. Race first. You can change your religion if you want tomorrow, but trust me on this, you will be black until when you die. You cannot change that. It's in your DNA. Even if you change your skin, you're not going to change your DNA. So race first, your political party, your ethnics, your countries, it does not come first before your race. Those are 3 principles of Pan-Africa. And all of them have not been respected and taken care of. So back to your question. We have people who are actually not Pan-Africanists, but we call them Pan-Africanists. One, there is some who I call single African nationalists. Let's say like I'm Ethiopianist. Let's say I'm Rwanda nationalist. Let's say I'm Zimbabwe nationalist, South African nationalist, or black in America nationalist. You know, you don't call those people Pan-Africanists because they point of view on African approach or Pan-African liberation is based on one single entity country. So those people are, just as I said, single country nationalists. We cannot honor them. They are not bad leaders, by the way. But we cannot honor them on the level of Pan-Africanists. Now, there is another group of people who are ethnic classy or ethnic nationalists. They only want for their own ethnics. You know, in Africa we have so many ethnics. There is a Yoruba nationalists. They only want for the Yoruba people. There is Kikuyu nationalists. There is Oromo nationalists. There is Amhara nationalists, and all of that. So those are not Pan-Africanists. Now, the Pan-Africanist people are people who fight for the race, black people globally. Those are Pan-Africanists. So did we really honor them, those who came before us? Absolutely not. In fact, not only we don't honor them, we despise them. Kwame Nkrumah, by the way, I'm talking about facts. I have read the speech of Kwame Nkrumah on creation of unity of Organization for the Unity of Africa. His speech, no one heed, no one pay attention to what he said. Marcus Garvey, everything he asked or he wanted, no one respected those things. Nobody. So we don't pay attention to and we don't honor Pan-Africanists at all.
Thank you for detailed explanation. Just let's come to the African Union. The African Union as a continental body, it's obvious to hear advocating Pan-Africanism, and also in some leaders' speech they quote Kwame Nkrumah, Julius Nyerere for establishing this is the ideology of Pan-Africanism. Do you think the African Union by itself gave recognition to this ideology practically, and are there any steps that were taken by the African Union so far you're concerned?
May I ask you first that do you see African Union respect the 3 principles of Pan-African nation? Do you see that? Absolutely not. African Union, the Constitution of African Union, article number 3, line number B. African Union is here to protect the sovereignty of member countries as it was left by colonizers. This is how, I'm quoting the Constitution of African Union. So in other words, African Union will never lead us to the full unity of Africa. It's not going to do that. So the United States of Africa from African Union is not going to happen. Don't worry about any other things. So for that reason, African Union cannot realize Pan-Africanism because, as I said, if Africa is not united, there is no Pan-Africanism. Why do we really emphasize on unity? Because our adversary, our enemy, are too big. If we're not united, we cannot fight back. There is no way. One single country in Africa, it doesn't matter which one, if it's Nigeria with big population and a big economy, it cannot fight the whole Western countries. We saw this. The Western was united to destroy Gaddafi, you know. And so African Union, in some sense, has become a stamping block for the unity of Africa. The budget of African Union, it does not come from African countries. The share companies of African Development Bank, most of them are European. I don't even think there's even one of them who is an African. That is as a fact. African Union have failed us from 1963 until today, and is failing us on Agenda 63. Let me tell you as a fact, you can go back and read what I'm saying. The article number 4, line number 32 on Agenda 63, it said this: by the year 2020, the organs should be silenced in Africa, and the establishment of democratic government should take place in the year 2020. Now we are in year 2024. Did the African Union silence the guns? No. They are everywhere now. If you go in Mozambique, there was no guns before that. Now there's guns. You go in Rwanda and Congo and Uganda, you can't even figure out, you can't even sleep. You go in Ethiopia, almost in every area there is fighting there. You go in Nigeria, there is fighting. In Chad, in Mali, in Burkina Faso, in Central Africa, in almost Cameroon, almost everywhere in Africa, the guns were not silenced. Somalia, as you already know. So African Union, obviously, I don't think, I cannot credit African Union to be a Pan-African organization. Absolutely not.
Thank you. Just taking you forward, there is a strong argument among the promoters of the Pan-Africanism movement that they say unless the ideology of Pan-Africanism is put into action, unless it's a real foundation in Africa, it's quite impossible to bring about a true unity and solidarity among the African people or society. Do you agree with this idea?
Absolutely. I think Pan-Africa has to be put into work, and I put that in my book as well. There is the fact that Pan-Africa does not even have a budget is even a shame. How do you gonna put? Do you ever hear anyone say, "Hey, we need Pan-African budget"? No one. There is nowhere there is a budget or anyone, even if it was 10,000 birr, Ethiopian birr for Pan-African. There is nowhere it found it. That's number one. Number two, Pan-Africa will now work until when we take Pan-Africa from the hands of politicians to the hands of the people. Pan-Africa, it was not made for politicians. Absolutely not. No one single individual who is a true Pan-African who was a politician. They end up to be politicians, maybe or leaders, but they were not in the beginning. Anyone who you know as a true Pan-Africanist, he never be a politician. So in order to make the effort to bring Pan-Africa to life, to realize the potential of Pan-Africa, we must establish Pan-Africa back to the people, back to the citizens. African Union, last time I went to African Union, and as I told you, I'm Swahili advocate. So I was trying to advocate Kiswahili to be taught to the employees, the worker of African Union, to be taught Kiswahili. That was my advocacy. I advocate Kiswahili everywhere. And they told me this, look how crazy this must be, that we do not accept the request from individuals. We accept the request from governments because this is entity that only take care of government. So they told me nicely, go to your country embassy and tell them to bring the proposal for the African Union employees to be taught Kiswahili. You see, so for us individuals, I don't have any, I don't have a voice there. And that's how they close, that's how they even made Pan-Africa to now work, because it's in the hand of African Union, and the African Union, you have to be a member of government in order to do, to make any change inside African Union, or to do anything pretty much. If you, your government does not like you, or if you are from diaspora, for instance, I have a lot of friends of mine, you don't have anything to say in African Union. So definitely we must, that is absolutely must, we must make Pan-Africa to work, but we must get that from the hands of politicians, and African Union as well need to get out from Pan-Africa. Pan-Africa is a movement of people for the people, not for the politicians or the governments or the leaders to be able to handle and to manipulate Pan-African movement.
Maybe related to this Pan-Africanism movement, the African Union has been raising the issue of African integration in the last few years. So the African Union by itself and the regional organs like IGAD and ECOWAS, are they really contributing their part for the integration of Africa?
Integration, you know, that is one of the things that always amaze me when it comes to integration. The idea of integration or collaboration, you will hear those two terms among the leaders who fear the full unity of Africa. Anytime you want to hear someone who don't want Africa to unite, they come up with let's say, gradually unite Africa, let's do integration, let's do this and that. But there is no way you integrate people in Africa without uniting Africa, because each single individual country has its own sovereignty. So if, for instance, Djibouti, the population of Djibouti, I don't even know if you know this, but the population of Djibouti is less than 1 million. Less than 1 million. I'm honestly, I have done research on this. But if Djibouti does not want the population to be integrated with Ethiopia, they can stop that. So how can you integrate people in the while the policy, the sovereignty, the strong sovereignty, by the way, not even like flexible sovereignty, is in place. So the integration thing is not gonna work. Why? Because each country is fighting for its best interest. If the integration does not, respond to the self-interest of Kenya, for instance, the Kenya is not going to be part of integration. It's not, because integration, some countries, they are making money of visa, tourism, and so on. So it's not going to work. That's number one. Number two, integration is not going to work, and it has not worked either, because the language. How can you integrate people that cannot communicate with each other? There is no way. Countries that want to integrate better and are doing so are East African countries, because of Kiswahili language. It makes it easier. But other countries, they cannot. In IGAD, ECOWAS, IGAD as well, and any other bloc like SADC, integration has been almost impossible because there is no language to integrate people. Same thing to the trade, to African Continental Free Trade Area. It's not going to work because there is no language. That's number two. Number three, which is the last one, but there is more, but I'm going to end here, is the fightings, the wars. How can you integrate people with these bullets flying around? There is absolutely no way. So again, as I said in the beginning, United States of Africa first, integration next.
You have established an institution called the New African Network, along with your five Pan-Africanist colleagues of yours. What does this institution do, and is there any achievement that you have registered so far in your activities carried out?
Yeah, well, a New Africa Network is a group of people, friends of mine, who we established this when I was in the US, in Washington, D.C. actually. Is led by me and my co-founder, Brother Eugene Tafford, who is African American, Black American, who is ambassador representative of Nigeria to business department to US. So he's representing Nigeria business in US. And then there is Jerome, who is from Trinidad, and Mr. Lasalula, who is also from Trinidad, even though he has Ethiopian name, and David and Bishop William. So those are the leaders of New Africa Network. Our plan is to bring information in both sides, in the diaspora and on motherland, so that we can work on it, but to inform ourselves, but also to bridge the gap between diaspora and our fellow people who are on motherland. Yes, we have accomplished DLAR because one, we advocate Kiswahili. Number two, we bring information in panel discussions to bring business to Africa. People who want to repatriate from America to Gambia, Tanzania, South Africa, Ghana is the most of them. And also in terms of investment, we have so many people who come to invest in Africa from diaspora. I think that is pretty much what we have accomplished, but there is big things that we are planning to do in the future.
You are very much active in teaching and promoting Kiswahili language. Why are you interested in doing so?
Well, yeah, definitely I'm a Swahili advocate by blood, not because Kiswahili is, maybe you can say, my mother tongue language. Is not. It's not my ethnic language, because Kiswahili does not have ethnic, but it's because I'm Pan-Africanist. If you look the history of Pan-Africanism, is always goes with Kiswahili language. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah advocated Kiswahili in 1960s. He wanted the Kiswahili to be lingua franca of Africa. Black people in America, like Dr. Maulana Kalenga, also advocated Kiswahili to be the language of black people in America, which is now today. Nyerere advocated Kiswahili. Jomo Kenyatta, everyone who came before us, they have touched on Kiswahili language. Now, why Kiswahili language and why language is important? I think this is absolutely self-evidence. Language is the key to the unity. That's number one. To develop ideas and to expand the ideas and knowledge, to create the bonds that binds people together, even though they may be different ethnics, different culture, different religion. If there is a language there, those things work. So that is another thing. So I advocate Kiswahili as much as I advocate the unity of Africa. We will never unite Africa unless there is a common language. I'm not saying that we have to drop every language so that we can come on board with Kiswahili. That's definitely not true, because Kiswahili itself is already being practiced in East and Central and South Africa, where there is other languages as well. But if we ever want to fully unite Africa, the issue of language, which is Kiswahili, has to be on table. That's why we want to ask Minister of Education in Ethiopia, Mr. Blahanunaga, to include Kiswahili in Ethiopian school. From primary school to universities, Kiswahili have to be incorporated. The hours you guys are teaching English need to be equal to the hours you teach Kiswahili. This should have been done a long time, actually. I don't really know why Ethiopia have not embraced that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just I'm running out of time, and let me ask you some other question. There is an attempt being made among the East African community to have a currency union through creating a common currency. How do you see this progress or that effort being exerted?
I think on paper it looks and it sounds good, but I don't really think that is going to liberate Africa, because as I told you, I'm strong belief in unity of Africa first. Any other thing does not really make sense to me until when we have one sovereignty, until when we are united. But it sounds good for me. I think it sounds very good. I don't really know the policies and who is going to be backing that currency.
Africans have been scattered around the world, living in almost all continents. What do you think should be done to create a very real and strong unity among Africans who are living here on the African soil and the others who are in the diaspora?
What should be done to get them involved, as I said, Africa for Africans at home and abroad, is that I think since we are not united yet, every country in Africa should have free citizenship to our fellow diaspora on arrival. That means if any black person who wish to come to Africa, come to Addis Ababa International Airport, should have absolutely citizenship on arrival. Citizenship, I'm just saying, not Ethiopian citizenship, but some framework should be established. That's number one. So I think that is something we must do. We betrayed them, by the way. We betrayed our fellow diaspora completely. If you look in the Ethiopian constitution, which I have read as well, it said that an Ethiopian is someone who is born in Ethiopia with both parents or one of the parents as Ethiopian. Any other individual is a foreigner, okay? This is the constitution of Ethiopia. So we need to add something in there for our fellow diaspora who really want to be part of Africa. So I think that's what I will suggest for all African countries, I mean black African countries, that we need to give them a completely free citizenship, which requires nothing. They don't even have to pay anything. As you receive citizenship when you are born in Ethiopia, right? So it should be the same thing to our fellow diaspora.
I really thank you for your time and for your insight to respond to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much.